How y'all doing? It's just James. It's December 21st, Saturday, 10 to 4 p.m. So, good evening to those who are listening. Uh, and good morning, good night, depending on what time you have to watch this video. If y'all watch this video, I'm still new at this. I'm still learning, so bear with me. I appreciate y'all patience. If anybody's watching, I appreciate y'all liking and subscribing, commenting, whatever. Give me your thoughts. But yeah, so what am I gonna talk about today? I got a lot of different things I want to talk about. A lot of it isn't so much personal. I do want to have personal things I want to talk about, but the thing that's always been on my forefront of my mind right now, at least lately, has been what's going on with, our politics in America and how that affects people that look like me, people that are lighter than me, like other minorities and white people. And I guess, not I guess, but I say it like this. The topic is money. My thoughts on it. I'll start it off. I'm not a financial guru, not a financial scientist, not a financial expert. Just a brother who's lived in the world, has to handle and deal with money. And just what I see. So if I say something that may not click with you, that's cool. Sorry, you don't have to follow listen. And if I'm wrong about something, please correct me. Do know I will fact check things. And I'm not above saying I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize and correct my statement. But again, this is just my opinion on things. Take it for what it was. But anyway, so back to it. Money. In my opinion, what money is and what it has always been is a tool to accomplish things, a tool to achieve goals, a very effective tool. And it can be used in any way. Now, I know a lot of people say that, and then today it almost rings true. Money is the root of all evil because of what people are doing with their money. Those who have large abundance, what they're doing with their money, and how it affects people who don't have as much. But I must say that in itself, money isn't evil. It's how it's used. Because money can be used for good, and it can be used for bad. And I think what differentiates that is what's happening today is a lot of people are using it for bad. A lot of people are using it to influence other people to use their money for bad. And that we've almost been trained to think, many of us have been trained to think that the only thing you should worship in this world is money, either overtly or covertly. There are many people who overtly worship money, and some of the most powerful people in the world covertly worship money. And then they tell you it don't mean nothing. But I think enough of us are smart enough to understand that ain't so. Trying to elaborate on this. Again, I'm still learning, so bear with me. And I don't want to use nobody's names because I think everybody's kind of paying attention in their own way. And y'all already know what's going on in the world. But I'll say that there are a few very powerful people in our world that have a vast majority of the money. So they have the most useful tool and in such a high amount that they can pretty much do whatever they want with it. I done walked the wrong way. I'm about to turn it around. Oh no, I'm good. I can just cut up that way. We kind of see that what's going on right now in our government. If you're an American or if you're a foreigner watching, somebody out here making threats to use their money to suppress people if they don't toe their line by letting them know that they won't be able to make any more money. And that in itself should show people the power of the money, and should be like, if they can do it that way, then we can do it the other way. I.e., if one person with a lot of money can use their money to try to tell other people what to do that would be harmful to most of the people who don't have a lot of money, then the vast majority of folks who don't have as much as that one person, but to collectively still have a lot of money, collectively still have a lot of financial power, can use their power collectively to do the same to benefit themselves. And a lot of people have been saying this, but the reality is most people are still fairly divided. They don't understand how powerful they collectively or we collectively, or how I say. They use division, like the color of our skin, the differences in our backgrounds, where we come from, our sexual predilections, or philosophy, differences in philosophy, or differences in culture, to be the distraction from what's really happening. And what's really happening is this small group of people who have most of the wealth aren't satisfied with most of the wealth. They want all of it. And they realize, how do you take all the money from everybody? Well, you get them to stop looking at it. You get them to not understand how powerful it is, or that collectively, even though that most people have the same amount collectively as that one person, that they truly are more powerful. And they've done a really good job of telling everybody that because of what they do. Prime examples, CEO gets, pew-pewed and they automatically label the suspect a terrorist, for lack of a better term, which I found quite interesting, because they don't label hate groups as terrorists. At least not the ones that are from America. And let's be honest, you know which ones we're talking about. They tend to believe a certain ideology of superiority and supremacy. And they plot to do things to people that don't look like them. And by definition, their very actions and tactics is terrorism. But they don't get labeled terrorists when they commit acts of crime and violence and terrorism, like shooting up churches, or shooting up schools, or shooting up grocery stores, and actually kill more than one person. But the people they're killing aren't wealthy CEOs. They're not the heads of multi-billion-dollar companies that profit off of the death and suffering of others. They will say it, though, for that one guy who stood up to it and got away with it. And what's crazy is, those same people didn't lose a single step when their fellow passed. They carried on as usual. Within that same day, they found a replacement, forwarded all his messages, and went back to business as usual. Now, that in itself is an example of the power of money, how much it can do, how much it can influence people to overlook things or look at things in a certain light. But again, I still don't think it's evil how it's used, right? Because here's the thing. If collectively, all these people who suffered at the hands of these companies said, we're going to stop paying y'all. Just there one day, anyone who's ever been shiestied out of treatment or told they didn't qualify for a pre-existing condition, those people that needed insulin and couldn't get it because the price was so ridiculously high that insurance companies didn't want to cover it anymore. So they couldn't keep themselves alive with this life-giving shot. They had to borrow, steal, rob, or whatever they had to do to try to afford it. If they all said, you know what? We ain't doing this no more. How much more effective would that have been than putting the trigger on that CEO? Now, this could be dangerous. People don't like hearing it. It can make me a target, which I ain't gonna lie, I ain't nobody special. All they gotta do is just stop my channel, but they could do worse. So I risk myself saying it, and not to big up myself, I'm gonna be dead ass. I ain't nobody special. Like the title on my page says, I'm just James. I'm just a brother in the world who wants to see the world get better for everybody. And the reason is because I realize the only way this world does get better is if it actually gets better for everybody. If it only gets better for one group of people, we slowly die. And actually not slowly die. We'll die slowly for a while, and then it'll be just a sudden death of everything. Because it took everyone to create civilization. With most people gone or destitute, civilization is over. And that's just a fact, whether you want to believe it or not. And I think for us, as Americans, or those who identify as American, we don't understand that fact truly. Some of us say we do, but we don't. And I think the reason that we don't is, even though it has been really bad for a lot of us, compared to some other parts of this world, it hasn't been that bad. You know, yeah, there's parts of America that are living like third world countries. But even those third world country parts of America are living better than real third world parts of the world. In the sense that they ain't gotta go hunt their food or dig a well. They broke, but they can at least still buy their water. Some places they gotta go dig a well if there ain't no water. They migrate, you know? And I think, even this platform I'm using right now, it's given us a false sense of understanding of what's happening in the world because we watch it through the lens of a camera or a screen, right? We see it through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, which is usually like this polished version of it. So, and it distances us from it. So it's like I get to see it, which affects you, but once you put the phone down or turn the video off or walk away from the screen, it's back to business as usual, right? You're like, I'm struggling. Food's expensive, bills is high. I gotta worry about getting sick, but I ain't gotta worry about military knocking on my door. I ain't gotta worry about some terrorists, or at least most of us. But not everyone. And the reality is we've created this false sense of security around our money. Well, we didn't. For lack of a better term, I'm gonna call them oligarchs right now. I think it's the most prudent because that's the world they want us to live in. One that's led by their oligarchies. So they've given us this false sense of security. They're like, well, America is safe. Geographically, we're harder to reach and all that other stuff. Which there is truth to it, but it doesn't make us safe. And all this is for money. At the end of the day, it really is. It's just for money. These people, because I'm assuming, because they've been successful for so long, they've reached such heights that they feel that now they're entitled to all the money in the world, knowing full well that that tool is necessary to keep people alive, to keep civilization going. And I always wanted to ask someone, I've never gotten to it. I don't think I've ever seen anyone legitimately ask these people this question. Now, I've seen people ask the question, but usually it's posed towards people like you and me, working class Americans, going, hey, pay attention to this, because what do you think happens? Which in itself is good, but it really ain't that effective. And the reason is because they're not asking the people who have this agenda what they think will come out of this. You know what I'm saying? I'm waiting for someone who is influential enough to sit down with these people and ask, what happens after you get all the money? What happens after no one owns anything besides you? No one can earn anything besides you. And you hold all that power. Now, I have some ideas, and I'll give you some, but again, they're just my ideas. None of them really end well. And I'll be honest, I don't know everything. I'm not in the heads of these people. I can only go off of what I've seen, what I see, what I witness, what I research, what I look up. As most people can, unless they're in these rooms with these people during their conversations and their plan making and their scheme making, and they get to know. But to get in those rooms, you have to pretty much align yourself with their agenda, which means that you're probably not going to come out here and really spill the full beans. Yeah, people slip out and they'll say shit, and most of the time those are people who've been jaded by that system because they came in and then they found out you weren't as influential in it as you were, and they'll speak out about spite. And then some do it because they got far enough to see what it is and then tell people, but by them not being aligned, they only get so far. They won't let you get deeper if they know you're not on board. Right? That's just how that works. But someone needs to ask them that question, like, what happens when you have all the money? When all those 1% of the 1%ers have all the world's wealth to themselves, what happens to everybody else who needs a little bit just to get by? How are they going to survive? How are they going to sustain themselves? How does any economy work after that? Because if the money isn't moving freely through all facets of life, who's there to generate more? But y'all want more, so how are you going to make more? And I always thought, I was like, man, I ain't no genius, I ain't no scientist, but I'm like, if there ain't a way for people to make more money, if there's not a way for people to live and earn and work and be paid a fair wage, how are you going to tax them? How are you going to pay them? So you just want to kill them or let them die? Okay, and then say you let them die, and that's just y'all. But y'all have all the money, and y'all don't need what I'm looking for. Y'all don't need to live by the same rules as everyone else. So you think it's just going to be one of y'all at the end that holds all the cards? Is this like some weird diabolical Game of Thrones that y'all are playing with the rest of the world? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, one of y'all's going to end up at the top with all the money and by themselves, and everyone else is just going to be dead or broke. And I was like, well, and the way the world works, if you're broke, death doesn't follow much long after that, because everything is privatized now. And they're trying to, well, anything that matters is almost privatized, but they're trying to privatize more of it, right? And what's funny is we were kind of there in the early 1900s with, child labor, no safety nets, no minimum wage or anything like that. And you saw what happened. You saw what children were looking like, what people looked like, what life was like for folks, how people were dying left and right, the unsafe working conditions, people getting maimed and hurt, all kinds of craziness. And then they had to fight for it. And all out of money. And I'm not saying we should do away with money. I'll be honest. I don't know how you can run a civilization without some form of currency or financial system that allows for fluidity in the system. You have to have upward mobility, and you have to have that. I know some people are all for like communism and socialism only and abolish capitalism, and I can see where they're coming from, because I can see with how our present capital system works, even though it has been the most successful at creating civilizations, it is also the one that causes long-term the most misery and destruction worldwide, right? The other ones, they do it fast so they burn out quick, but the way capitalism works is it always holds off a small group, which apparently not, and this ain't picking on white folks, but let's just be honest, most of the wealthy people on this planet are white. Now, I ain't saying everybody's racist, and that ain't saying all wealthy people are racist, or wealthy white people are racist, but let's just be honest, the vast majority are white. Just saying. Right? So, they get to think, well, capitalism is good. And then what happens is, because they're so good at pushing that message of that capitalism and money, we got movies about it. We idolize it. I mean, Wolf of Wall Street. For all intents and purposes, old boy was a diabolically evil man. Yeah, he was charismatic and charming, but he was evil. He was unfaithful to his women. He was unfaithful to his friends. He used them as pawns to facilitate his scheme of wealth and power out of a need to feel superior or being inferior to others. I'm not saying he didn't work hard, but he was driven by a need to feel validated, a need agreed, and a need for power. And I would say that is the crux of money. It lends itself too easily to wrong and bad intentions, because inherently it has no intentions of its own but to propagate itself. Money on its own, his only goal is to make more money, nothing else, which by that very nature lends exceptionally well to greed-driven, power-driven, and insecure mindsets. It's just how that works. So you have to, I would say, if you're going to use money responsibly, especially the people at the bottom, like us, who we don't have billions of dollars in the bank in our net worth. Oh, I'm sorry, scared the shit out of me. You don't have billions of dollars in the bank in our net worth. We have to be the responsible ones. It's point blank. I don't care what race or creed you come from. The reality is, if we are not responsible, and I'm not talking about being responsible as in, oh, well, I'm going to save and put it in retirement. No. I'm talking, we're responsible with what we have and who we give it to and why we give it to them. Right? I understand we all need to eat, but just think, why is the rest of the world not as obese as us? And I'm going to be honest, I can't shame anyone who's overweight. You know, I work out, I'm strong as fuck, but I'm still a 300-pound man. And I train and exercise 5 days a week. Now, I'm not shredded, but I'm also not, if you look at me, you wouldn't be like, oh, he's morbidly obese. But I got a belly, I ain't gonna front. I'm working on it. I'm out here, I'm walking. But we have to be more conscious in order to do it. We have to be like, all right, I ain't gonna choose that. I'm gonna choose this to buy. Why? Because that ain't healthy. And not so much that, but also who we buy from. I don't know how well versed people are in the history of Dole bananas. And I'm not prepared to give you like a full synopsis, but I'll give you like a quick little breakdown. So, bananas themselves aren't bad for you, but the reason that company is so powerful is because they did some really nefarious shit with their money and to make more. Where they were mainly processed in the Caribbean and those islands, they turned the people, the natives there, into slave labor to farm these bananas. They tortured them, they controlled them, they beat them, they didn't pay them. They created their own currency on that planet, so they didn't have to use real money to pay these people who are literally producing the thing that made that company wealthy. And you can go look this up. And when these people fought back, they had a war, they revolted, and in a few days, and you want to know why? Because our government sent the military down there to aid those greedy corporate people to do what they do. And they snuffed out that rebellion of these people fighting for their, lack of a better term, God-given rights. Because I'm not super religious. I believe in a higher power. I believe that, I'll say it like this, I believe there might be a higher power. But I see too much in the world going crazy for me to believe that the higher power, if there is one, gives a shit about us. Maybe he does, and maybe what I'm doing and what other people are doing is his or her way or its way of trying to communicate that message that it wants better. But I feel like, and this is me going off on a tangent, if you're all powerful and all knowing, you could do a little bit better. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, back to the story. So the old company snuffs out this rebellion. Dole bananas become huge in the world. Everybody buys them, 40s, 50s, 60s. And the crazy part is the symbol on there was of a woman from that native country, happily and smiling. And it's like they killed the revolters, the people who were making this, who just wanted their fair share. Because why not? They're producing the product that you're selling for profit, and you don't even want to use real money to pay them. You made your own currency that you paid them, that was literally worthless outside of your compounds where these people lived, and used it to control them on every level of their life. Now, the reason I'm telling y'all this is because what it appears that we're going into, and very well could be going into, is something very similar, but on a way larger scale, on the scale of our country, possibly the world. I don't know. But what we got going on is these people are trying to take all the money. And why are they pushing for, bricks and Bitcoin and all this other stuff? That ain't even real money. Yeah, it's backed by a really technical equation that you need the right type of computer to, do the equation, and you get a coin or whatever. But that ain't real. You can't pick up a Bitcoin or a Dogecoin or lithium or any one of those. Like, you can't, there's no dollar. And even a dollar is an IOU. We're not backed by gold or anything. We used to be. But the way the world worked, we realized that we couldn't scale that for what we wanted to accomplish. So now we really all play with an agreed upon currency. And that's the crazy part. It took universal agreement for us to have the money that we use today. But it doesn't take universal agreement for people to use that money against us. And all it takes is some careful manipulation, some backdoor deals, some threats online, and they get to push their agenda. And I'm telling y'all, this is your wake-up call, ladies and gentlemen. This is the canary in the coal mine, as a lot of politicians and people like that like to say. I'm telling you, not so much that you got to get out, or maybe you do, but that be aware of what you're backing, right? In my last video, my only second video, I was talking about how the wealthy will eat themselves if they succeed. And it's kind of already showing, because they're a little brazen. I don't think they believe they would have gotten as far as they did. I think they took a gamble. They realized how successful it was. And they think that now they're in these positions where they're untouchable. You know, now they're in office, or they're about to be sworn in. And now they're like, we can move people around and do what we need to do to make it hard for everyday Americans, regardless of what you look like or where you come from, to have any power to even govern their own lives as individuals. Because let's be honest, the world we live in right now, you have to have some kind of money if you want to truly govern yourself as an individual. If not, you're tied to the job you work, and you're tied to the groups you align yourself with that'll financially back you. Hell, even me. And I don't like to admit it, but it's true. I work a job, you know. I'm not self-employed just yet. I'm working on it. If things go wrong with that, I gotta go find another job if I'm gonna make money, or create one. And YouTube is my way of doing that. But even then, I'm still tied to a company that, if they don't like what I'm saying, they don't like the cut of my jib, hell, they just don't gotta like what I look like, you know, or just feel like it. They can never allow me to gain any traction. And it don't gotta be me, it could be anyone. It don't really matter. And we see this is true. It's well documented. Or they can frame me, put words in my mouth. I was like, we live in the world of AI, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a world of where there are programs and algorithms that are every day getting closer and closer to replicating reality on such an intricate level that the only way to tell the difference is if you were actually in the room when things were happening, when they decided to show it to you. And in our present political climate, if you don't see that as a dangerous and deadly thing, you are going to be in for a very rude awakening in the future. And again, I'm not against technology. I'll be honest. I like AI. I think it could be a very useful tool for us as human beings. But the way our system is set up, how they like to trickle things down, the people realize the more you trickle down to these folks, the more opposition we get in our control of power, right? I mean, I'm on a cell phone right now. I'm just walking, talking. Money made this. Don't get me wrong, it was an idea. It took the collaboration of some very intelligent people with an idea for a new technology and the wherewithal to put it together. But if they didn't have money, this thing wouldn't exist. Point blank, period. At least not on the scale that it does. You understand, this thing has literally, I'm 41, telling my age, so I'm old enough to know the difference between, you know, dial-up and, you know, what do they call it, optic. You know, I was there in the beginning, America Online, hearing the white noise and the crackle. Sounded like Optimus Prime was busting a nut in your face. Pause when you turned your computer on.
I'm gonna say the pause again, but that's what it sounded like. And you was like, what the fuck just happened? Pardon my French, but I was there for all of that. I was there for when you got a computer. You damn near had to be a power lifter if you want to put that bitch together, because everything weighed so much, because we still had tubes and transistors. You know what I'm saying? So I seen the start. And ain't gonna lie, back then it was hella promising. You know, back then we were so new to this thing called the internet. Social media hadn't come out yet. All we could see was the potential upsides. You know, and ain't gonna lie, there was a lot of good, because immediately people were putting out websites. You had information, people were selling. You know, the .coms are bigging up. I mean, but all in the pursuit of what? Money, right? And as time progressed and as more money got involved, as anything that has money involved, the ne'er-do-wells and those who are not so concerned with the betterment of mankind as a whole, but the betterment of their wallets and pocketbooks, their portfolios, the betterment of their misguided agendas, got involved because they saw the potential of what they could use this for. You know, they saw the good, but they also saw the bad. As with most technology, as with most tools, like money in itself, you know, there's a vast potential for good with money, but it takes discernment, understanding, and a true desire to want to accomplish good, not just by one individual, but by many individuals, in order to make money do that. And the reality is, money, even though I don't believe it's necessarily evil, but by its very nature, or I should say, by its very nature in relation to our nature as humans, it is far easier for one individual who can amass a lot of money to do a lot of harm than it is for one individual who can amass a lot of money to do a lot of good. So we have to be, again, diligent, aware, educated. And I'm not gonna front, I'm like I said before, I'm not a scholar, I'm learning. And all I'm doing is, as I'm learning and as I'm trying to better my understanding, I'm giving y'all my thoughts, because I feel like there are people, first of all, pause, there are people doing it, but I don't think there's enough of us doing it. At least not enough people that look like me. I think there's a lot more black folks like me, or at least there are a lot more that are being promoted than the ones who are talking more on the lines of being more responsible and better and more positive, looking forward and thinking about money. There are more of us being promoted who have a different agenda than the ones who actually care about helping people grow. You know? I think money has become a proxy or a signifier of quality, of leadership, of intelligence, and I would say it's become a proxy or a call sign or dog whistle or whatever for good quality, good leadership, good intelligence, and goodness. And the crazy part is, we are reminded and shown every day that just isn't true. You know what I'm saying? And in our, I don't know how to put it, well, and some people's need to counteract what they're seeing, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Remember that old saying, fight fire with fire? You gotta fight money with money. That's the reality. And I think these people know that if we can get as much of it as we can from all the other people, then we are literally insulating ourselves from an attack. We're insulating ourselves from a threat or any type of opposition, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. But the reality is that, folks, every one of us, every working person in this world has a choice to choose what to do with their money. Now, they're going to do their best to make you feel like you don't, because we get sick, we need food, we need housing, we need all these things. And it's very easy to go, well, if I don't have those, what am I going to do? And this is, I'm like, but there's the answer right there. Collectively as human beings, you know, we have as much wealth as that few small people. And the only reason they're able to hold their power is because they're willing to share some of that wealth with people who are willing to do their bidding and willing to enforce their views and laws. And I'm not calling for chaos, but I'm like, I don't understand why people don't realize that even though we may not have as much as that one or two individuals, collectively, we do have the same amount of power and wherewithal, right? The moment you stop spending on something that's not funding a lifestyle that you want to live, you take power from it. And if collectively they do that, if collectively we do that, then we're taking our power back to govern ourselves and get back what we want in this world, is the ability to live, govern ourselves, and take care of ourselves as we should. You know? And they've got us in this place where instead of looking at the person who literally has that tool more, they got us looking at other people who are in the same boat as us, just because they happen to look or think a little different. You know? How you doing? But there are many people out there who are trying to tell you, myself included, it doesn't have to be that way. You know? The moment we as people decide that we actually want a world that will work for us and be better, and we want to be heard, and we do that as a collective unit, not divided along our racial lines or our financial lines or our religious and ethnic backgrounds, but realize that, hey, wait a minute, I'm fighting this man and this woman for the same thing that I want, and they don't really got it neither. They don't got it neither. You know? You think war fighters are millionaires? Ask yourself that. Is that guy who's in the military a millionaire? Who's fighting a war half around the world a millionaire? And if so, then why was it when so many of them come back, they're broken and destitute, living on the streets with mental problems? That's just America. Never mind the other countries, right? I was like, bro, if you ever lived in any major city, you're going to see a bunch of vets out there sleeping on the street. They fought for this country. They fought for freedom. They fought for equality. They fought for the right to live. They fought for that American dream that I think we no longer believe exists, because we've given up on that dream because we allowed people to take it from us. And they're very smart about how they do it, because they don't take it away by force, so to speak. At least they're not doing that yet. They take it away by manipulation. They take it away with lies. They take it away with tactics. They go, I'm with you. I get it. We're poor and we're destitute. And it's funny because they say we on these things, but they have all the money. They don't know what it is to be poor. Or they go, I was once like you. I was once poor, but I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. And then when you look into their history, you find out they had a lot of help. financial help and backing from people who had money. We're seeing it right now. And what they don't realize is they owe those people for what those people did for them. And I say to y'all folks, we have the same power. We literally have the exact same power. Yes, our money individually isn't as great as some people's, but as a collective whole, it very much is. And until we're able to get to a place where we can come to a table and sit down and realize, hey, that Christian or that Muslim, they ain't my enemy. Or that black person or that Latino or that Asian person or that white person is not necessarily my enemy. It's the ones who are hoarding all the wealth and telling me who my enemy is. That's your enemy. If you're, biblical, which I know a lot of people are, or religious, I should say, then y'all know how the devil works. He tells you lies, sells you a dream, milk and honey, but he's taking your soul on the other side of it, So, as they say, anything that glitters isn't gold. And I think that's more true now than ever before. It's kind of sad. It's dark because this tool that we as humans created, it is probably one of the greatest tools we've ever created, but simultaneously one of the worst, is being used against us by our own kind. And we don't seem to understand that. And I wish we would. I wish we would really get it. And I think some of us do. I think some of us understand that, hey, people out here playing us. But the sad part is, even though a lot of people do, we still are stuck with the other lies that they told us. We're still stuck with the other fallacies to contend with. And you can't hold on to all of it. You can't have the cake and eat it too, unfortunately. It's like, if that lie we all agree is true, why aren't all the other ones? And that's kind of what I want to leave y'all with, what y'all should be thinking about. And I know it kind of went on some tangents. This is just me talking, How important is money to you? And I'm not saying it shouldn't be important. We need it to live, unfortunately. But I'm saying, do you worship it? And I think a lot of people will say, no, I don't worship money. But I say, are you sure? Really look at it. Would you attempt anything if you didn't have money? How do you think you would feel if you had more of it? And do you think you could even feel that way if you didn't have more of it? I ain't gonna lie. I myself have had to ask myself these questions. How many times have you been told, visualize yourself and the life you want to live? Visualize yourself if everything was working how you wanted it to work out and needed it to work out. How many of y'all, at the top of that list, was, I'm wealthy? I mean rich. Not I'm healthy. Not I am free, but I am wealthy. And if wealth is at the top of your list for the ideal life and not your health, not your freedom, not access to knowledge and truth and the ability to create, you probably worship money and you don't even know it. You probably really are I wouldn't say acolyte, but you're definitely in that church. You know, I know on Sundays a lot of people go to church. People go to a bunch of different churches, you know. If you're Roman, Catholic, Protestant, Christian, Baptist, Pentecostal, Muslim, Arab, Buddhist. Everybody's got churches or temples. But people forget there's a religion that's literally over all of them. The religion of money. And I think if we can stop worshiping it, realize that it is a tool and not something that we should worship, we probably get a lot further in this life. Because then we don't have to wait on the money to come together. We don't have to wait on the money to execute as a unit. We don't have to wait on the money to be true. We just do. We understand the truth. We understand what's needed. And we take back our power. We take back our rights. We take back our freedom. And not to create chaos, but to create peace. To genuinely create peace. I've never been in a war. I know people who have. I've seen a lot of things. I've read a lot of things, and I've been in some sticky situations in my life. And I would say, I don't think war is the way to go. Now, I get it. It's part of human history. We've been doing it since the dawn of man. It's in our Bibles. It's in our history books. It's in our video games. Hell, some of the most popular video games are about war. You know, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Fortnite. I know people say, well, they're not about war. But I was like, have you read the lore? If the game isn't actively engaged at the time, the setting isn't actually engaged in that war. Usually the lore is revolved around a past war or several wars that happened that led you to the fighting that you're in now. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, dude. I love video games. I love first-person shooters. You know, I like all of that. I won't say I'm a gun enthusiast, but I don't hate guns. I'm actually looking into collecting more on my own. But I think our relationship with money has warped our sense of that. Right? Why is it the most famous games are ones of killing other people? And then what we do is we get money for it. We get bling. Pardon the term. That's old and played, but I think it was most appropriate. And when I say bling, that's like Call of Duty. You get enough kills, you get a gold-plated gun. Gold is currency. You kill enough people, you get a diamond-plated gun. Diamonds is currency. They are training you to incentivize the death of others to acquire a small amount of wealth. And in reality, most people who fight and die for their Jews never get wealthy. Most of them. Nah, man, I done lost my way. I'm out here just figuring it out. I was supposed to be on the yellow, and now I'm on the blue. So that's literally where I'm at. I have no clue. I'm just walking and talking, recording a video. But y'all have a good one, man. Yeah. Same to y'all. I'm gonna figure it out though. How y'all came from this way? Is it close on the way out?
Like if you go out here, you know you want the perimeter line yet?
I walked part of it because I was just walking and talking, but I hadn't gotten all the way around.
So like if you go that way, you'll go out to the pink one, and the pink goes. You take a left, it'll go all the way around back this way where you came, and if you go right, it'll take you out all the way to a corner. You'll see like the dirt road on the other side of the fence. Dirt road takes you out to 41.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, man. Y'all have a good one. Yeah. Well, pardon the interruption. We're coming up on an hour. Got a little directions because I'm walking and just rambling and walking these trails, and then got lost for myself. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So people don't realize is we're no longer fighting wars to protect anything other than the assets of very wealthy people. Probably should have said that sooner, but after having that conversation, it allowed me to get to that point. And it all goes back to money. They taught us to worship it. They pushed that agenda to worship it and not realize that it's just a tool. They intentionally neglected to teach the vast majority of us how it properly worked when we were in school in our formative years, when it would be most critical for us to understand how it works to give everyone a better shot at life. And then they make it so that for the vast majority of us, we can't survive without it in one way, shape, form, or another. I mean, name one thing that you can do in this world that should be a God-given right that you can't do without money except for breathing. That is the only thing you can do without money in this world. And the reason that they don't charge you for that, and they haven't figured out a way to charge you for that, at least not yet, is because they know that if all you are doing is just breathing, and they have everything else charged or taxed, or you have to pay for it, you ain't gonna last that long. So you ain't a threat. But let it be that people just stop dying. And that somehow breathing is enough to sustain yourself as a person indefinitely, and they'll find a way to charge on that too. So, I don't know, man. Again, this is just James giving y'all my thoughts. Talking to y'all about some money today. Talking to y'all about life. You know, I appreciate y'all who stayed to the end. I know I like to ramble, because I'm going to be honest, this is just me talking my thoughts. I go for a walk or I go for a drive and I just give y'all thoughts. About an hour's worth. Then I go on about my day. Now, I thank you again. I appreciate y'all sticking with me, whoever does watch this. If you do like what I'm talking about, or you want to review it, or you have comments, elaborate, refute, whatever, it's fine. And the reason I say that is because I think we need to talk more, especially people who aren't able to see eye to eye. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the best at practicing this in real life. I'm working on it. I thought I was, but I found lately, besides this and for a select few other people, I don't want to talk that much to other people because I feel like they're not listening. They want us to listen, they want me to listen, and I'm the type of person I do. And I want to hear other people's thoughts. But when I find that you won't return that favor, then I say I'll just stop talking and move on about my business. As the Brits say, you just get on with it and keep on moving. But I also know that ultimately that's probably not going to be the way that solves things for us. So part of the bid in me making these videos is opening that dialogue up in a way that I feel would be best. At least for myself and hopefully for some others, you know? So again, comment, like, subscribe. Thank you. I appreciate you. This is just James signing off. If you're religious, God bless, praise Allah, or whatever your God is, I wish you well. I'm sorry if I missed your God. I don't know all the religions, but whatever your religion is, bless you. If you're not, hey, have a good day. Live your life. Hopefully you find some peace in this world. Lord knows we all need it. I love you. Have a good day.